was stressed. I was working 7 days a week, 12-hour days, beat my head against the wall. I'd get to the end of the job and be like, where's the money? Where's the money?
Right.
Numbers are the language of business. And if you don't know that, you don't even know what you're running. In our industry, that's not talked about enough.
What were the financials like?
I just got off the tools. I had no idea about my numbers, but I knew there was an easier way to doing it. I got into the trade and construction industry because I didn't want to be sitting in the classroom. I didn't want to have anything to do with numbers and spreadsheet, but that's business. Learn those key aspects of how to actually run a business and how to read a P&L and how to read a balance sheet. It all becomes like a little game of making profit.
We see many businesses that are trade businesses and are always trade businesses. But there are some that go far beyond that to create return for risk. So how did you do this?
Got real honest with myself and what I wasn't good at. I went into the marketplace and found those people that taught me what to do. Whether that come with a good price ticket, I was willing to pay it.
Was it hard to give some of that away?
I made every mistake under the sun. Once you get one of those really good hires, that's just a benchmark now. The journey you go from being a tradesman to a businessman, started wearing different clothes, bought an e-bike, and I started riding to my factory so I couldn't pick up materials. I did everything I could to try and shed that old identity.
I've got 5 clients. In the growth phase, how would you look at those jobs?
Growth comes at a cost. You can grow broke.
Are you setting this business up to sell?
Never.
It's your prerogative as to whether you want to set it up to sell or not. There's some key elements that drive value, and they are... Welcome back to Let's Talk Business podcast. I'm your host, James Price, and our guest is business founder, Zach Hansen. Zach, great to have you.
How are you, mate?
Yeah?
Good to
Thanks
be.
for joining us. Who is Zach Hansen, and what is ZMH Roofing?
Yeah, I'm Zach Hansen. ZMH Roofing is an architectural cladding and roofing company. We've been around since 2019, and... yeah, I feel like that we're sort of leading the industry in high-end architectural metal roofing and cladding and about to start pushing into the commercial space at the moment. So we service from, Mittagong to Avalon at the moment. So yeah, probably most of the east coast of New South Wales.
And who's this Zach Hansen fella? Tell me a bit about tell me a bit about him.
Yeah, so 28 years old, business obsessed.
Really?
Yeah, of course, I love it. Live and breathe it. I come from humble beginnings.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a wild ride to get where I am today, but it's been very rewarding.
What was hard about that ride? Did you ever think you'd be in this situation, running your own business?
When I was younger, I always used to think that one day I wanted to own a company and be a business owner, but I didn't know that it would come true.
Right.
I went through a lot of adversity at a young age.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of grew up in a broken home, lost my old man to a drug overdose, and I had to grow up. I had to grow up really, really fast. I got stuck in, wrong crowds and whatever not, but I always kept on working. Since I was like 16, I lived out of home.
Really?
So I had to grow up really, really fast.
And yet, you tell me you sort of had a aspiration to eventually own a business, although you didn't think you could get there.
Yeah, just limiting beliefs. You had to go through... I'm dyslexic. Like I left school at such a young age, and I felt like to own a business and to run a business, you had to be smart, and you had to be able to spell, and you had to have all those skills that you think you need to have, that they tell you need to have in school.
Yeah.
And it's just completely wrong.
Yeah. Why is it wrong?
Because I feel like that you don't need to have that as a business owner.
What do you need to have?
You need to have like unwilling belief that you're going to make it happen. You need to have grit, determination, and a good vision. So
where did you get that belief? Did it come as a result of no one else being around to believe in you? Correct,
yeah. There was no other way to build the life that I wanted to have, and also not continue the life that I lived and that I grew up around. It was sort of like, I have to go and make something of myself, and the only way to do that is to work for myself and build something.
Yeah. When did you first get your sniff of the business that you've just unraveled to me, ZMH Roofing?
Yeah. I've always wanted to build something bigger than myself and create a life that I could only ever dream of.
Yeah, right.
And I felt like the only way for me to do that at the moment is just doing what I know best, and that's through the roofing industry. I got into it at 16 years old because I got kicked out of school. I was suspended from school, and the funny story how I actually ended up in the trade, I was visiting my father's grave, and the guy that's actually buried behind him,
yes,
he said to me, why aren't you at school? And I was, a little smart-ass kid, and I said, I don't like school. I've been expelled, whatever not. And he goes, do you want a job? And I was like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, right.
So then the next morning I met him on the side of the highway with my esky, and the rest is history.
Did you do your roofing trade?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. And how important, if you reflect on that versus where your business is now, you had the trade at 20. Was that an important thing to have? Like, was that an important component of your growth as a person from that sort of teenager through to owning your own business, do you think?
It was just a ticket to ride. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know that I was going to be a roofer forever. I just loved hard work. My identity was just, I just want to get up and work hard and make money. Then I was making $500 a week.
Yeah.
But it was just better than nothing, you know? When I was an apprentice, I always asked my tradesmen sort of what they were making and whatever. And I couldn't believe that they were, you know, making $1,200 a week or $1,300 a week. So I was like, that young kid that was still on like, you know, $500-$600, he was just asking the right people questions and, you know, what do I have to do to be a better tradesman? What do I have to do to get to where you are now? And yeah, sort of just went on that journey. And then when I found out you could actually start making some good money, I was like, well, this is just the next step.
You're a very interesting guy, eh? Because I got this feeling that there's a sort of a bit of a curiosity in you, but also a little bit of a fire in that belly somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, despite a whole bunch of circumstances wanting to put it out, yeah?
Yeah.
It's quite amazing how that develops. ZMH Roofing, if you think about it today, why is it different to other businesses? What's some of the key elements that make it stand out in the market versus your competitors?
I guess just our attention to detail and our standards and what I believe is acceptable.
Yeah.
You know, I've sort of built the company on relentless standards and relentless high expectations of what we provide. So, you know, we do the little things right. We paint the back fence. You know, our attention to detail is second to none. Yeah. And I felt like before we sort of got into the industry, no one was doing that. Everyone had the mindset of, oh, it's just the roof, whatever, everything looks good from the ground, or we can throw a drone up there and it'll look good. But when I first started the company, I was like, I'm going to create a vision where, you know, all my photos are taken up close and everything we do is this perfection and we do it right and we do it once.
Okay, so perfection is a key element that makes you stand out. Is there anything else?
Oh, our team, like now we sit at, you know, a team of 20 with, you know, I've got a full-time estimator, a full-time operations manager. We got like 6 highly skilled tradesmen that are, you know, that have years and years and years of, you know, knowledge under their belt that I've obviously gone after and poached and done everything I can to get them in the business.
So quality of team is important, right?
That's huge. Business is people.
The people bit's a hard bit, isn't it? You're saying it's a defining bit for your business, the quality of your team.
Yeah.
So you've told me quality of work, quality of team.
Yeah.
Right, which presumably they're connected through standards and systems, but also just the know-how of the team. But how do you go about building that quality team? What are the elements that have led to, you know, to that piece being built by you?
My team didn't start getting as good as what it is today until I got myself right. At the start of business, I was still, you know, going out and partying and you know, not taking business seriously.
Yes.
But once I started taking it seriously and I started getting real honest with the standards that I had in myself,
yes,
then that just rippled into the business. I was able to implement better standards into my business because if I'm not doing what I'm saying I'm going to do, you would sort of attract the right people then.
Yeah, right.
And in our industry, it's such a blue collar industry where, you know, everyone drinks and we're a huge, you know, I just slap it on, whatever, mate. But once I sort of changed that and I was like, these are the standards now. These are the guys that I'm going to go after and they have to have a good attitude, good skills, want to be a part of a business that's growing, you know, and treat it like it's their own.
But there's a word called leadership there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're really, you know, intimating.
Correct.
You decided you wanted to be a leader and you decided, it seems to me, I don't want to put words in your mouth, there were certain standards of your leadership that you wanted to display yourself, but also have your team display, yeah?
Yeah, correct.
What made that change from the knockabout tradie that, you know, has some parties and drinking to, you know, well, I've got some standards here which I want to have in my business, and that includes the standards that I conduct for myself. You
can't run a good business and not be a good leader. And before, when I was running a business, not a good business, I wasn't a leader then. I was just a tradie, still in the tools. You know, I was allowing my guys to, you know, rock up late I was allowing my guys to not care and the way they communicated to our apprentices, and, you know, I was tolerating stuff that I shouldn't have been at that time. But once I started learning about leadership and understanding true leadership,
Yes.
I sort of went on this crazy path of trying to become the best leader in my industry.
You're kind of unraveling what seems to be the early years of the business from 2019.
Yeah, correct.
So in those days, what were the financials like? Were they pretty meager? Like were you making a wage? You're having some fun, or was the business growing and developing, or was it just there or thereabouts?
At those stages, I didn't even know anything about business. I sort of just got off the tools. I had no idea about my numbers. Didn't even know what a P&L meant. I thought it was a cruise ship. And I feel like in our industry, that's not talked about enough. A lot of our, I got into the trade and construction industry because I didn't want to be sitting in the classroom. I didn't want to have anything to do with numbers and spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff. But that's business, and numbers are the language of business. And if you don't know that, you just run and you don't even know what you're running. Yeah, it's been a crazy journey to over the last probably 2 or 3 years to learn those key aspects of how to actually run a business and how to read a P&L and how to read a balance sheet, and then it all becomes like a little game of actually making profit.
Well, it's really fascinating because we value a lot of businesses and provide advice, and not all our clients, but a number of them are in the building and construction sector, right?
Yeah.
And we see many businesses there that are trade businesses and are always trade businesses. And they don't grow much over and above providing the owners with a decent wage,
Correct.
But there are some that go far beyond that because they have the ability to move from the technical side of being on the tools to understanding the bigger picture and understanding how the elements work and how to drive the beast to actually create return for risk. And it's a challenge, right? Because often you're skilled on the trade side, so that's your focus. But actually, many of those businesses they require an understanding. Don't get me wrong, which you obviously have a deep understanding, but they also require an understanding of business dynamics. Yeah.
For sure, I believe it's a full identity shift that you have to go through. It's a 1 to 2 year journey that you have to strap in and completely shed the old identity.
So how did you do this? It's almost like watching a snake lose its skin.
I got into business coaching when I was still I didn't even know what numbers were. I had no idea, but I knew there was an easy way to doing it. I knew there was an easy way to doing what I was doing. I was stressed. Didn't have any life. I was working, 7 days a week, 12-hour days, and just beat my head against the wall. And, I'd get to the end of the job and be like, where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? And, I reached out to a business coach and sort of went on the journey then. So surrounding myself with people on the same journey was really, really important for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in regards to the journey, you go from being a tradesman to a businessman. That took a lot of, as I said before, shedding the old identity. I started started wearing different clothes. I started driving a different car.
Okay.
I was one of the best paid delivery truck drivers. I'd always being the business owner, I'd always find myself at the supplier, picking up stuff because I didn't trust anyone to strap the stuff down, and I was just driving around Sydney delivery, dropping around materials.
Yeah.
So I bought an e-bike and I started riding to my factory so I couldn't pick up materials. I did everything I could to try and shed that old identity.
Yeah. So are you comfortable in the business owner identity today, or has that still got a ways to go?
No, I feel like I've completely made that transition. Yeah.
That's amazing. Right?
Yeah.
What's the best test of that to be sure that you have made that transition, do you think?
Well, me being here now.
Yeah.
It's a Thursday. My team's run efficiently. It's just I put the right people in the right positions to now allow me to work on what I'm good at.
You've actually just dropped another key element that's perhaps different about your business, and that is, whilst you're a big part of the business, it's not necessarily delivery wise, it's not necessarily reliant on you. Yeah. Or as reliant as it would have been in those early days.
Yeah, I was, as a business owner, you think you know it all, and you try and wear all the hats. You try and do all the invoicing, you try and do all the quoting, you try and do all the accounts receivable, you're trying to measure up all the jobs, but it gets to a certain point where you just can't do it all. And, my business wasn't doing as well as what I thought it was. And so I got real honest with myself and what I wasn't good at. Mm-hmm. And I went into the marketplace and found those people.
Was that hard, Zach? Like, it sounds like you said, I didn't trust others. I wanted to do it myself, right?
Yeah.
By listening to you, you've held yourself to high standard. Was it hard to give some of that away and say, listen, Johnny, Joe, Pete, your estimator, I'll trust you to price this job? Like, that's, you're the one taking the risk, right? The financial risk.
Anyhow. Of course. But I didn't just go out and find any Joe Blow. I knew that I wanted to hire people that taught me what to do. And whether that come with a good price ticket, I was willing to pay it. So I didn't look at what it would cost me. I looked at what it could make me and how much time I could buy back to work on the things that I loved. And I put on an ops manager and an estimator in 2 months, just straight after one another, because I was so heavily involved in estimation. I was so heavily involved in operations. I had no time to work on the business. I was just working in the business.
It's very interesting you take that view, because some of our clients are in that building phase of their business, that early stage, right? And they come to us and they say, James, we've got that much work and I'm snowed under and I really need extra resources, but they're X dollars an hour. I don't think I can afford it.
Yeah.
Right? And I often hold a mirror up to them and say, and what are you worth an hour? Have you worked that out?
Yeah.
If you're focused on not on the tools, but on the key strategic and business aspects of a business owner.
Yeah.
And once they understand what they might be worth an hour and compare it to the price of the resourcing of some of those key areas, they understand there's an arbitrage opportunity there.
100%.
If they can release themselves. But it's hard to go through because of that trust issue and the risk issue, obviously.
Of course, yeah. And as I said before, you want to sort of bring people in that are 10 times better than what you are. I feel like in those key roles, in those leading hand roles and in those operations estimators, project manager roles.
Yes.
I didn't go out to, a guy that's been doing it for 1 or 2 years. I went to a guy that's been, 20 years in the game. And I sort of sold him the vision and sold him, what my plans were and where I see him in, 5, 10, 15 years from now and said, like, we're going to do this and we're going to do this well.
There's a very mature approach to it, man. I mean, is that because, of the quality standards that you had for the business? You had to make sure that you just weren't turning a buck for the sake of turning a buck.
For sure. Before this, I made every mistake under the sun. I hired ex-partners. My mum was doing admin. I was trying to do everything myself because I didn't want to pay those salaries.
Yeah.
But once you get one of those really good hires, it just goes, fuck, this is what the standard is.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what a good operations manager runs like. And then it's just like, that's just a benchmark now. So if they ever leave, I know that you either have to be at here or above to get the job.
Yeah.
So when you go through those journeys of hiring the wrong people and not having a good job description or not even knowing what the role is, but getting really clear on what you want and who that person is and making sure that they're really good at that role. Because I feel like, if they're good at that role, if they can teach you how to do it better than what you can do it. You've
hired people that are better than you to deliver the goods on the ground, but also teach you.
Correct.
But what do you teach them? What are the core elements that, if you look at the business today, that you're teaching them?
I feel like my ability to remain calm and sort of not let any emotions. I feel like everyone's always in a good mood because I set that presence in the office.
Right. Calmness is an interesting point. Just to give you a bit of time to think about perhaps some other things.
Yeah.
Because for me, what you're alluding to there is you set the tone of the culture of the
Correct,
team.
yeah.
Right? You said pulling a team together is about getting A-grade people.
Correct, yeah.
That are better than anyone else at doing the job.
Yeah.
But that's only one component from our experience, right?
Yeah.
The really valuable businesses, yes, they have sexy looking P&Ls and balance sheets with strong profit lines, but they have a tone and a culture
Correct.
that is second to none.
Yeah.
Right. And it's sometimes it's palpable when we go into a business and we feel the strength of a team, and so I wouldn't underplay the role of setting that tone, because culture needs to come from the top.
Correct. It needs to come from the founder and the CEO. And I felt like when I made those key hires and I started building the team, I had the time back to really, get clear on my vision and get clear on the culture that I wanted in the business and work on that. And that's really a job that only I can do.
Yes.
And that's, where I spend most of my time these days is, just making sure the team is happy when I go to the job. So I make sure that we're setting the team up for success.
Yeah.
With clear job handovers and giving me all the information that they need to do the job, so they don't have to make phone calls back to the office and ask, what's going on here or what's going on there. Like they got a clear understanding of how many hours I got to do the job, what's involved in the job, and we're setting our team up for success.
So does that mean that another element that you bring to the business is setting it up for success, but kind of, adjusting those performance hurdles over time to ensure the delivery is sound? I mean, are you a sort of a keeper of the quality and standards in your business?
Correct, yeah. I'm still heavily involved in regards to, I'm not diving in on spreadsheets and doing that sort of stuff. I'm sort of playing in my strengths now, which is, going around in quality control, making sure the standards aren't dropping. I'm still very present on site. I'm always rocking up. I spend probably 2 or 3 days driving around to the site, checking on quality control, making sure everyone's happy. I rock up with coffees and Powerades and just sort of making sure that the culture is still there. And if there isn't, if it's not there, I have those hard conversations and I lean into that.
Well, I wanted to ask about the hard conversations.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do you like in a hard conversation? Because you just purported that you're a calm, unflappable sort of a dude, right? But sometimes shit happens, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Either it's created internally through, behaviours or a failure of your internal systems or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or it's created by an external
Yeah.
issue. Supply didn't do what they said they'd do. Client was difficult and wanted X, Y, Z, and that wasn't in the scope. So how are you in those sort of conversations?
Yeah, I'm in them all the time now as the CEO. I feel like I love this part of it, and it's sort of grown on me as time's gone on.
Yes.
But yeah, learning to have those hard conversations, because out of those hard conversations, that's where all the good is. I found everything on the other side of that hard conversation, you get the outcome that you want, but you also, it makes you a better leader the more you have them.
If you had a hard conversation with me,
yeah,
as one of your team, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm in the estimating side or the business development side, or I don't know. But how would I feel at the end of that conversation?
I feel like that you would feel good.
Really?
I would make you, because I would say it in a way where it's a win-win.
Right.
And I would say, I'm going to tell you this right now because I know you can handle it, and then let's unpack it.
Yeah.
And let's get to the bottom of what went wrong and why it's going wrong.
Yeah.
Where earlier on I'd try and win the conversation, and I'd try and win the argument. And once I'd win, I'd rub them salt in the wound. I'd say, I'd fire them and I'd, celebrate that. But now, like, if you win the conversation, or if you trying to win everything, you're just losing the relationship.
Yeah, right. So you see it as a win-win, not a win-lose.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a change, right, that you went through. Do you recall when you changed that approach, or what led to that changing?
Listening to good leaders and how they lead their businesses.
Okay.
I feel like the best leaders are always calm, and they don't want to sabotage the relationship.
Yeah.
Where before, saying that too, if a bloke's got to leave, he's got to leave. But try and make that the last thing to happen. I look at myself before I look at them, and I say, what can I do better if this guy wants to leave?
That sounds like a very basic insight, but it's often the key to good team management.
Yeah.
Because often it's as much the manager or the leader's issue as it is the individual.
100%.
Right? And so you're saying, well, look, there's a two-way street here. I got to look at myself, the company, how we're conducting myself. Was the environment right for this person to do what they need to do.
For sure.
And you also need to look at the individual.
Correct.
But my sense in unpacking that with you, you sort of got a longer term view of things in those relationships. I mean, construction can be a pretty hard jungle to be in.
It can be, yeah.
As a worker, as a business owner.
It's not easy, yeah.
Like the client saying, I want this now.
It's the hardest thing that you'll ever do being a business owner, especially in the trades and construction industry. I feel like it's this stress, and it's probably one of the only industries that you get paid 60 to 90 days after you do the work. You know, so a lot of jobs, a lot of, you know, other businesses are very transactional. You know,
they are.
Yeah, you get paid before you even do the job, where sometimes, you know, we do a job and we don't get paid for 60 to 90 days later, and you know, you got to float that. So it's, you know, cash flow issues and all that sort of stresses that come in business. It's I feel like it's a little bit harder in the trades and construction industry.
So just picking up on cash flow, but more broadly, think about your business. It seems to me from how you've represented it, it's a business that's been built, and is perhaps, you know, embarking on the growing stage.
Correct. Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
So how do you manage cash flow during that period? Is that a tricky issue? You mentioned about payment terms.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's a huge issue. You just have to always be running a tight ship. You know, you have to always be looking at where you can save and managing and mining the margin out of all your projects.
Yes.
So before we start a job, you know, we set clear deadlines of how many hours we got to do the job, set clear margins and whatever not, and then we try and execute the same way with the estimate.
Yeah.
So doing everything you can to come out of the other side of the job profitable takes a lot of work.
Yeah. Is that about having good systems to tell you what's going on, or is it more about the project managers managing the work? Like,
it's everything. It's systems and processes, and having the team on the same line. So everyone's, you know, from the estimation to the handover to the project handover to the handover to the client, we've executed that in the same way. So it's a smooth run the whole way out.
Yeah. And thinking about that growth phase, right? Just you know, a little bit of a case study here, right?
Yeah.
So I've got, you know, for some reason, you know, I've got 5 clients that need roofers over the next 3 months, right? So there's 5 jobs, and they're different values, right? And they're different locations, but they're all sort of resi jobs, and there's a commercial job. So there's 1 commercial and 4 resis.
Yeah.
Now, would your business, how would, in the growth phase, how would you look at those jobs? Would you take them all on? Or if not, how would you discriminate against them, and how would you choose which to pitch for?
Yeah, I feel like you got to take growth very carefully and very slowly. I feel like that slow growth is good growth, because if you grow too fast, you'll fucking run out of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had that experience?
Yeah. Yeah, we got burnt. You know. We dipped our toe into the commercial section probably 2 years ago.
Yes.
And just took on the wrong jobs with the wrong people at the wrong time of the business, and you know, growth comes at a cost. Yeah. And you can grow broke.
Yeah, you can grow broke, and you obviously don't want to do that.
No.
You've learned from those early mistakes.
Yeah, for sure.
But you alluded to the fact that it's not all just about dollars. You said, you know, you've got the wrong sort of people potentially.
Yeah.
To deliver the job. So
100%.
it's, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess it gets represented by the dollars.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, you're sort of hinting to, have I got the capability to handle this job, is what you're saying?
Correct, yeah. You know, when there's bigger clients and these bigger contracts, you need to have the right team around you. Otherwise, you get pushed around from some of these bigger companies. So, we learned the hard way. But I'm so grateful that we went through that journey and I learned it all out. Yeah.
So as a result, are you fairly selective about the jobs you take on? Or?
We are now, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And how does that work? Because roofing's, you know, the trades, it's a competitive market.
Yeah.
Right? So the risk is, I guess, you know, you're sitting there, you know, with a whole bunch of employees and, you know, a slim pipeline because you're saying, well, hold on, I'm not going to play there. That margin's too low. Is that sort of a judgment that you have to make?
Yeah, it is. I feel like a lot of people in the trades and construction industry just drop their pants just because they want to keep busy.
Yeah.
They use busy as a badge of honor. and they're busy doing nothing. Early on in business, we'd sort of let clients come to us and we'd feel, we're the best here, but now we're sort of trying to get real clear on the type of client that we want, and we're going after them. So we're going into the marketplace and I'm asking people that I know are in the industry, hey, who are your best clients? Yeah. Hey, who pays the best? Who are your best? Who's the best builders around that we can try and dip our toe in, and then we find them, we find who they are, and we go after them now.
I love that, Zach. I mean, it reminds me of some businesses in the construction sector that we've valued. And I'll give you two examples, right? One business is a business that's got roughly a 12 mil turnover and has had for many, many years. The turnover's been kind of pretty static, up and down, but round about the 12 mil. The earnings line before tax, consistently over 40% of that turnover. Right, profit.
Yeah.
For tax.
Yeah,
over 40%. In the trades and, construction, building services.
Yeah.
And this business picks and chooses every single client that it deals with. We've got another business that's in a very similar sector and service. It's got a 40 mil turnover and the earnings line delivers a 10%. To turnover. And that business takes on pretty much any jobs it can possibly get.
Yeah.
Right? Now, each of the owners are different. They're taking the risk. They're getting a certain return.
Yeah.
Right? But that first business, is doing a whole lot less work for the same amount of profit. Right? Now, there's no right or wrongs. And it's tricky because you've got the external factors, right? But in valuing a business, we look at that closely, right? Because what's sustainable earnings, and in the first example, those earnings are very sustainable, right?
Yeah.
Because 40% is a big margin on profit
for sure
in any sector,
yeah.
let alone construction. It's very interesting to hear you talk about the things that you're focusing on as you're going through that scaling and growth phase.
Yeah.
Are there other things there that are important that you're seeing as you're scaling and growing?
You got to make sure that you're going to come out the other side on top. Going after bigger contracts and more money. So, you don't want to keep chasing more revenue. You want to make sure that it's all dropping down to the bottom line, and you sort of want to grow your MP, not your rev.
Are you fearful in that case that, you'll be forced to take on more overhead to support the systems and administration of the business, or is that not an issue for you?
I guess it's just a part of growth.
Yeah. And where are your systems and technology and reporting? Where is that up to? Like, if you had to rate that.
Better is always possible.
Yes.
But I feel like that we're pretty systemized now to take on most jobs at most size.
In terms of that growing phase, as I see other clients, in the broader construction sector, there's the opportunity to stretch out and have other services beyond, for instance, just roofing.
Yeah.
Right? So it seems that some businesses, they double down on what they're good at and focus on what they're good at.
Yeah.
Others, tend to build supplementary and complementary services around their offering. Is that a judgment in this growing phase that you're thinking about, one or the other, or not really at this stage?
I think about that a fair bit, but I feel like, I do. I always think of other ways to, bring in better revenue, more revenue. But I feel like if you just double down on what works and what's got us here,
yes,
I feel like that you just can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm so a massive believer that if you just do one thing over time and just repetitive and just keep doing it year after year after year after year, you look back in 30, 40 years and I feel like you'll have a much better outcome than someone's tried to pivot and trying to chase dollars elsewhere. If you just focus on what you're good at and you double down on that, I feel like that's where true success is. You look at all these successful businesses, they've been around for 50, 60 years.
Yep.
And there's a lot of guys out there trying to chase a lady in the red dress, and this isn't working, so they go try to do something else, and that's not working, so they go try and do something else. Where if you just get real honest and ask the question, well, why isn't this working, and go off and fix that, then I feel like you're on the right path.
rather than thinking that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence with the lady in the red dress.
Correct, yeah.
It's fascinating you say that, right? Because I walked into an Australian private business here in Western Sydney the other day, 145 years old. And one of their cornerstones of success, and it's still in the same family, is focus. Focus on what they're good at. And yes, they've expanded their offering, but they haven't gone far from what was their core. So very interesting. You talk about focus and not having distraction. You personally, how does that work, man? Do you have a list? You wake up and look in the mirror and say, that's my list today. But you're a business owner.
Yeah.
Right? There's a whole bunch of distractions, including being invited to come on a podcast.
Yeah.
So how do you calibrate that as an individual, right? When you're leading the business, like how do you move that distraction? Because it sounds very simple. Just be focused, buddy.
Yeah.
But is it?
For me, yeah, it's got me to where I am now, and I feel like that we're sort of just touching the surface on what we're capable of. So if I, went off path and tried to do a million other things, I would take my finger off the pulse of what I'm doing well now. So, I sort of just try and stay in my own lane and not worry about anyone else, what anyone else is doing, and just keep investing back into the business and keep doing what we're good at.
Just talking about what you're good at during that growing phase. Where are you on that journey, do you think? When was the moment when you felt, I felt like I built a foundation here.
Yeah.
I can now grow.
I went through, that period in time where we, had a few big losses, and so we sort of, we recovered from that. And then, you get yourself back on board and you start having, successive profitable months, and, you're like, all right, sweet, what we're doing now is working. And then, you sort of sit on that for these 6 to 8 months and you're like, all right, sweet, what we're doing now is working well. What can we do next?
Yes.
And not next as in being, let's go and try and do everything else.
No.
Let's try and push into the commercial stage. At the moment, we're just doing the high-end residential space. So I sort of sat on the fence of going back into the commercial stage, and we're sort of doing that now.
And how far are you into your growth journey? Do you reckon you got another 10 years of growth ahead of you?
Yeah, for sure. Me being me, I'm pretty ambitious and I've got big vision. So, definitely.
What does growth look like to you, geographically, or from a numbers perspective? Is that how you look at it, or what do you look at?
For the next year, probably 5 years, we'll be doubling down on that. Yeah. Wherever that takes us is, I'm not too sure yet. We're sort of just dipping our toe in yet. But yeah, over the next 10 years, we're sort of, I want to be doing around 20 million for sure.
Okay.
We're not there yet, but.
Yeah.
And it's not just a number. I don't want to be doing 20 million with 2% MP. I want to make sure that bottom line's heavy. I feel like a good business, a good profitable business, sits at around 20% MP. And if we're not hitting those margins, I sort of don't want to be doing it.
It's an exciting period for your business because you build it, you've got the platform, but now the time is. How can I grow it, take some more risk, but get some more return?
Correct.
And build it into, a more valuable business. If I look at it in 10 years' time, what will be the things that I look at that you think that I will, focus in on as to its value?
Our model is we don't have any subcontractors. So I've sort of... Everyone is on wages. We have full-time employees. Yeah. And that just... You're buying into... a company that's set up. We don't have a subby model where you guys employ ZMH roofing and, another car with another roofing company comes up and goes, we're just here to install the roof for ZMH, where, you're looking at a business with, 30 or 40 employees paid full-time by ZMH roofing.
So is that as a result of your standards and quality control that you were talking about, do you feel that you need to have, those people under your wing as employees? Is that the reason? Is it a sort of a quality control
and a culture thing too? I feel like everyone wants to be on the same mission.
Yes,
I feel like where there's a lot of offices now, a lot of companies out there where they've got all their office working from home. I'll never have that. You know, I want to grow I want to have my factory and my office set up with, 15 people in there. Everyone's in a good mood with, gym, like all that sort of stuff. It's going to grow a good business where people want to come and work at.
Yes.
And they're excited to work at.
So the cultural aspect, other than the bottom line profit,
Yeah.
and the internal team being part of the team directly,
Yeah.
are some of the key elements of value that you're looking to build.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're obviously building now as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you setting this business up to sell?
Never.
Never. Really?
Yeah.
Why not?
What else would I do?
What else would you do? You love it.
I love it. And that's the thing.
Yeah?
Like if I wasn't doing this, I don't know what else I'd be doing. And I feel like that's what the difference is in me than most other guys in our industry. You have to tell me to stop working. And I sort of I'd be lost without it, and I know I've only been doing it for not that long, but I feel like, even when I'm older or something, like I will always, it's just a part of who I am.
Yeah.
And it all depends on, what happens in the future. But for me, where I'm at right now, like I feel like that, I want to grow this into something that's pretty big,
Yeah, I love that. I can feel the energy, right?
Yeah.
And it's your prerogative as to whether you want to set it up to sell or not.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, right, that, in valuing businesses and seeing businesses go through their development, their building, their growth, and potentially succession and sale, or just succession to other family members or whatever, there's some key elements that drive value in those transactions, right, for exit.
Yeah.
And they are making sure the business is not dependent on the founder.
Yeah.
They are business culture and team culture and having a tight-knit culture that delivers strongly. They are having systems and processes in place that underwrite that culture and delivery system. And they also are really solid earnings at the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right? Sustainable earnings. So, it might be that you never want to sell it, and that's fine because you can take the risk and get the return from staying in it.
Correct.
But some of those elements are critical.
And you always have to have your finger on the pulse on every single one of them. And as the founder and the CEO, you have to always be, looking over all those elements that you just spoke about. You have to be over them all. As like me at the moment, I'm not working in the business, I'm working on the business. So I'm just constantly looking around at what issues aren't going bad and just going to fix them. So I tell my team now, like, I don't want to know what's going well. I want to know what's going wrong so I can fix it.
That's often a tricky issue with business culture, right? Because there's many businesses that we've had a peek into that have trouble talking about the bad things. The culture is more about, talking about the good things and not raising the bad things.
Yeah.
Until they raise their ugly heads themselves. And often by the time they're raised, they can't be dealt with.
Too late, yeah.
So, a really positive culture in a business that drives a lot of value in a business is where, and this, is where your team members knock on the door ahead of time and say, "Hey, Zach, I can see a train wreck happening if we don't act now."
100%.
Because it's that.
And that's what culture is. If culture isn't, it's not the writing on the wall, and it's not the mission statement. It's not anything like that. Culture is a set of beliefs, and it's a set of behaviors. I can call every single one of my team members at 9:00 on a Friday night, and they'll answer.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what culture is, and the buy-in that you get. And culture is a set of behaviors, and it's how your team behave when you're not around, and how they treat your clients and how they treat your customers when you're not around. And you can have everything you want written on the wall, and you can have everything you want in booklets and say what you are, but culture is behavior.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, in addition, culture is a 4-letter word. It's a word that says care.
Exactly right.
And, that's a very strong business if you can build that, because it gives you momentum.
Yeah.
Things can come and go, markets can come and go that, ruffle the feathers of a business positively or negatively. But once you get an energy and a culture, it's pretty hard to stop.
And when you get the right people in the right positions that have the buy-in that you have, it doesn't even, the hard conversations, they don't always have to come from me. They come from the people too. So, you know, I've got leading hands that have hard conversations with other tradesmen and other apprentices that I don't need to have those conversations now because they just know what I expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you hear it coming from other people, that's when I feel like, you know, you're on the right path.
If you have to reflect over that period, were there a couple of key learnings, and what were they that really turbocharged you into the next stage of what you needed to do?
Your business is just a reflection of yourself, and I feel like that you need to get yourself right before your business will follow.
Yes.
That's probably one of the biggest learnings that I went through.
Yeah.
Your business will not outgrow your identity, and if you think small, you'll be small.
If you think small, you'll be small.
Yeah.
So when did you grab the confidence to think bigger?
When I started to surround myself with the right people.
And when was that?
2-3 years ago.
And when did you realise that the people you were surrounding yourself before were not all the right people?
Because they're not doing what you're doing, you know. They're not on the same path as you. So for a long period of time there, I took advice from people that weren't doing what I wanted to do, and I was just asking the wrong people about.
Yeah.
I was taking advice from people that didn't have the businesses that I want, and I was taking advice from the people that didn't, you know, have what I want in life. And it's so cliche, but if they haven't done what you want to do, don't ask them the question. Go and ask someone else that's walked the path that you've walked.
Yes.
So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest learnings that I've, you know, surround yourself with the right people that have already gone before you, and that's how you learn. And most of those guys, they see a lot of their younger self in you, and they want to teach you. Mm-hmm. So I've found out, asking the right people
is a key, right?
As one of the been a big key, yeah.
And you need to be discerning in that process, right?
Correct.
And it's not a sort of a one-hit fix, you know. It's something I think from my experience that you need to carry that approach with you for the rest of your life.
Correct. Yeah, always got to be a student of the game.
A student of the game. That's fascinating. It's easy to say. What's the evidence that you're a student of your game?
Just always learning. You know, you've never got it all figured out. I'm always constantly, you know, reading books and listening to podcasts, and I'm always thinking about ways to improve myself as a person, as a leader, as a business owner, and also as how the business gets better. You know, I'm always looking to improve my systems, my processes, my people. That's all I do. Yeah. I'm always looking to improve, and the moment you think you got it all worked out is the moment you stop growing.
People listening to this podcast think I'm a broken record because I say this regularly, but the A-class business owners that we've experienced over the years in helping businesses grow and change are the ones that are learners forever. They know their industry, their business, themselves, their strengths and weaknesses, and the people around them, their suppliers and clients, better than anyone else. And they never, ever take them for granted.
Ever.
You know, it's a unique approach, you know, and it requires someone to have their ego in check, right? Doesn't it?
Oh, it's the biggest, yeah. And I could talk about that for years, you know, for hours, for ego, you know, that's...
Well, did your ego get in the road of things at certain times?
It did, yeah. It ruled my life for a lot of years, you know, until I got honest with myself and realized that it's the enemy. My ego got me to where I am now, but I'm just sort of trying to shed that. You know, obviously everything I went through as a kid, my ego was probably very important, and I sort of built the business off the back of fear. Yeah,
and I noticed you dropped a social media post recently about fear.
Yeah.
So I think you were suggesting that fear is a bad thing. Tell me about that.
Your relationship with fear has to be, you have to be excited for it. I don't think you can't let fear hold you back.
Right.
And when it's scary, you have to jump. And I feel like you have to have a good relationship with fear to everything you want on everything. You know, fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. Once you go through it, you realize that once you come on the other side of it, that it's not that scary, but most people are too scared to even take the first step.
Yeah.
And you got to use it as a fuel, in a way where it's coming from the right place.
Your early days, you know, sounds like a fair bit of fear, but also, you know, difficulty, right? Was it hard, and has it been hard, and have you jettisoned that? Like, is that part of becoming who you are as a business owner today? Because, going through that circumstance, losing a parent at a young age and the difficulties that you've faced, one naturally builds barriers around oneself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's been very difficult. I went through 12 months of therapy to try and get myself in a good position, where it took me, as I said, my ego to put that aside and realize that I didn't have it all worked out. And so I'm a huge advocate of guys that if you need to get help, go and get it, because on the other side of all that healing and all that stuff that you go through, you will come out a different person.
But you put yourself in a vulnerable position to go through that, right?
Of course, yeah. And, for a long part of my life, I thought the manly thing to do was say, don't worry about doing that. Or, the harder thing to do was, you got to choose your hard, and the harder thing to do is to go and get help. The easy thing to do is to keep bottling up and pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down, and and reflecting on other people and saying they're the problem, and where really if you choose the harder thing to do, the harder thing is to go and get help and to go and unpack whatever I went through as a child and stuff like that. It's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
No worries.
You like business.
Yeah.
You've told us that. You've doubled down on business. You want to do nothing else. You don't want to sell it. You just want to build it. That's great. You're growing it. I love that. No, seriously. I love it deeply, because, why I'm in business and have been in this business for 25 years this year is because I love business. I love the variety. I love the risk. I love the return. I love how business owners and founders can shape an offering that's got true value, right? And that they can impact in a positive way, many families of employees and suppliers and clients.
Yeah.
But what else, floats your boat? What else keeps you?
What I do outside of work?
Yeah, what else keeps you a sane person?
I'm super active. I'm always, I recently did Ultramarathons, so I run 100 kilometers.
Good.
Yeah. So
really?
I choose the long distance and the hard sports because it's the easiest. It's the most relevant thing to life and business. I'm currently training for a full Ironman at the moment. Doing Sydney 70.3 in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm always on the grind and always training and always sharpening my sword. So and I love the hard workouts, and I love the hard pushes, the long distance and the long 3 hours on a bike and it took me 20 hours to run the 100 kilometers. But you just come out of there a different person, and it's the mindset and it's the belief that you grow in yourself. And I feel like if I didn't do those things, and if I didn't choose those hard sports and those hard missions and those hard goals, I don't think I'd be where I am in business right now, because it's built a muscle.
So you're talking about this muscle though, aren't
you? The mindset, yeah.
Hey?
Yeah.
Like you've obviously got some muscle somewhere, but you're talking about this one.
I'm a true believer that business is probably 80% mindset, 20% skills.
Yes.
And my ability to grow a strong mindset is by doing, hard things and setting a goal where I don't think I can achieve it, and putting it into work. And waking up in the morning and training at 4, early mornings of the day, and putting in those hours of work and repetition to make me a better person, a better leader, a more stoic person, to humble myself, to then show up as a good business owner.
I think that's key, right? And I'm a big advocate for physical and mental fitness.
Yeah.
As part of an individual's performance. And who they are, but also as a business owner, because I think as business owners we make a lot better decisions if we're individually, physically and mentally fit.
Sure. I call it the lead domino in the morning. My morning routine is pretty dialed in. It's not, if I miss it, I don't spiral out of control, but I know when I work best and how I work best, and I make sure that I do those things in the morning, and I go about my mornings a certain way so I can show up as the best version of myself. And it's sort of like putting on your armor before you go to war, because business is hard. And if I go for those long runs, or I do those hard training sessions in the morning, I've already humbled myself, so I can show up at work, and I can be a boss, and I can be the leader, because I've already done the hard thing. Me going into a meeting or me going into a hard conversation isn't that deep.
I just want to summarize 3 things there before they get out of hand.
Yeah.
Because I think you've dropped 3 elements that are critical to business success as a business owner. One is knowing yourself, knowing how you go about things and what you're good at and how that displays itself. The other is the physical and mental strength and mindset. And the third one, you know, you dropped when you told me about this bloody marathon you're running. But yes, successful business is a journey.
It is.
And, you know, most businesses that fail or go through struggles run 100-metre sprints. And sometimes they run them really well, and sometimes they fall over halfway along. If they're focused on a journey for the long run, then, you know, from my experience, it's forget about the destination.
That's everything.
It's best.
Yeah. It's who you become on the journey. It's yeah. You know, I've got the screensaver on my phone. There's a million ways to win, and only one way to lose, and it's don't quit. And that's been my screensaver on my phone for 5 years now. And it's just, you know, overcoming adversity and going through the hardship, and, you know, the problems don't get bigger. You just get better at dealing with them.
No, I love that. And I want to ask you just a question, because it sounds to me like you've got a good relationship with your nan. And if I was talking to your nan, I think she lives on the Central Coast, is that right?
Yeah.
If I was talking to your nan, what would she say?
Oh, she's my biggest fan. You know, she'd probably...
Is she? Is she?
Yeah, she is. You know, yeah, I've done everything I can to make her proud, you know. Yeah, she's very, very, very proud of me. But she would say, you know, I'm a good grandson. You know, I show up for her. We speak to her, you know, every second day. So I put in effort. You know, she's important to me. So I show her effort, and you know, I give her the love that you know, my old man can't give her these days. So yeah. Yeah,
I love that. And I understand she likes spaghetti.
She does, yeah. Yeah, so I try to go out there, you know, a couple of times a month and go spend some time with her. You know, you don't know when, you know, I heard of someone on Instagram or social media. It was like, you know, how often do you go see your mum and your dad and your nan, and you know, if it's once or twice a year, you know, and my nan's 81, you know, she's probably got 5 years max to live. Or 10 years max. But, you know, if I only go and see her once a year, I've only got 10 times that I go spend an hour or two with her. So you've really got 10 hours with her, not 10 years. So
do you get contentment as a result of, you know, visiting?
Of course, you know, business, it's nothing, you know, everything's like, business is just before it was my identity and it was all I ever wanted to do. You know, business was, it was like, I have to be successful and I have to be this and it has to be this. But my expectations around that was so high.
Yes.
Once I fucked the expectations off and realized that, you know, business is, I'm going to be doing this till I'm 80, whether it's hard, whether it's good, you just have to go, all right, sweet, that's that, but it's not everything. You know, connections and relationship and family and being a good person and you know, building your character and you know, being a good mate and being a good father and, you know, striving to be a better partner, like all that stuff is the most important thing. It doesn't matter what you have, it matters who you are.
I think that's key, and I thank you for sharing it with us, right? Because you've said, look, get rid of your expectations, build from the ground up.
100%.
You know, and it's kind of interesting because, like, a lot of this discussion's been about continuous improvement, right, and striving for better, right? And I think sometimes business owners and individuals, we can confuse that with aspirations and expectations. You know, really, I think what you say for me is rip the Band-Aid off and get real.
100%, yeah.
Understand where you are.
Yeah.
And understand what you need to do to move it forward.
Yeah, because if you have the that's the reason why you're not happy.
Yeah.
If you've got an expectation that you're going to do 8 million, you end up doing 4 because your business can only operate at 4 million. Your expectations are not reasonable. Yeah. So get real with yourself and get honest with yourself about what you can actually do, and just go on that journey to do that. And don't set your goals. Obviously, have big goals and aspirations and stuff, but just be real and just take, you know, 1 year at a time. People overestimate what they can, you know, get done in 10 years, but underestimate what they can get done in 12 months.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a huge pillar for me. Like I just focus on what I can do now and the next 12 months, and the rest will just work it out. If I continue to be a good person and show up as a good leader and know my numbers and look into my business, like the rest is everything's just going to fall into place.
Zach, thank you for sharing Zach Hansen and also ZMH Roofing with us and your journey to date. I'm delighted to share this with our audience. It's very inspiring, and it's also the nuts and bolts of building a trade business and growing it into a serious enterprise. And I'm excited to see how it develops over the coming years with some of the foundations that you've talked through today.
Yeah.
So appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.